Welcome to this Rainbow Map reflection session with Alison Curtis and me, Andrew Thomas. If you're already using the Rainbow Map, then this and other reflection sessions will hopefully generate new insights and ideas for your own practice. If you are new to the Rainbow Map, then these sessions are intended to help you further your understanding of this tool and if and how it might be of use to you and your clients. You're also very welcome if you're a member of the general public. I hope it helps to show the types of conversations that happen in therapy sessions, and if that helps to reduce barriers or perhaps misconceptions connected with the world of psychotherapy, then that can only be a good thing in my opinion. For the therapists sharing their experience with us, my hope is that the session is both enjoyable and an opportunity to take a little time out to reflect on the role that the Rainbow Map plays in the work they do, and perhaps even open up new thoughts and ideas that might be useful afterwards. I would like to emphasise that all psychotherapists and counsellors who participate in these sessions have been asked to generalise their reflections and not talk about individual clients. In this way, we can ensure client confidentiality is maintained by ensuring that these sessions can be made widely available in support of professionals learning from each other and showing what can happen in therapy. It's my hope that these sessions will also contribute to making psychotherapy and counselling more transparent and accessible to those who are interested in it or considering becoming a trainee or a client. Alison lives near Southampton, a major commercial centre and port on the south coast of England, and I'm very grateful to her for making time for this reflection session. So without any further ado from me, over to you, Alison. Perhaps you might give those joining this session some background on you and your practice.
Thank you, Andrew. Hi, I'm Alison Curtis. I'm a relationship specialist. So a lot of my work is with couples. Some of my work is with individuals, but I also work as a coach, working mostly with leaders around influence and impact. And I'm starting more to develop an interest working with those people who are on the autistic spectrum or who suspect that they're on the spectrum.
When and how do you typically introduce the Rainbow Map to your clients?
So if I think about couples work, I will introduce it when they are being, one or both are being triggered and seem to have either no control over that triggering or no responsibility. Take no accountability of their response to the triggering. So it might be in a couple where one is being heightened and triggered. It might be that they're both. So, but that's my cue really when I might then bring in the Rainbow Map to work more visually with them.
Okay, and so that could be at any time in the work you're doing with them. So
yes,
it could be in the first few sessions. It could be any number of sessions in.
Yes, indeed. So I work. I think I might have said, but I work quite creatively. So I will use potentially artwork with couples. I'll use chair work. I'll use the floor space.
Okay.
And so if they know me a little, they won't be surprised for me to ask the question, are you happy to experiment with me here? Are you happy to play with me on this one? Or can I introduce a tool to you?
And does that experimental nature also enable you to experiment? So, because I'm always interested in, it's one thing learning how to use a tool. It's another thing sort of integrating and using it. That can be quite, daunting in some ways to actually do it live with clients. So what was that like for you, the first after the workshop? What was it like for you in terms of actually having a go, so to speak? How did you achieve that, or was it a pretty easy thing for you?
Well, so something that's really high up on my own value set is learning and growth and personal development. So for me to give myself permission to play and experiment with the clients when we've already got some trust established is a joy.
So in a way, you introducing it for you is like walking the talk in a way. If you,
Yes.
but you're not going to introduce anything into your work. So, or do you? I mean, maybe whenever you go to any workshop, do you always integrate it, or was there something about the rainbow map that resonated with you?
Lots of couples, when they come in through the door, they can't really explain what they're feeling or why they're feeling it. And this brings a way to visually represent that. So it needs less words attached to it. You don't need to be so eloquent to really express what's going on.
Do you have a way of introducing it? Do you introduce it the session before, or do you introduce it at the session and then use it, or do you send them an email? Because I know you work online as well. So how do you go about actually introducing it?
So I typically won't introduce it the session before. I will introduce it in the moment.
Oh, okay.
And that said, once we've started working on it, it may be that people want to think about it more, or people want to think about it at home because they haven't thought about their cycles in the way that the rainbow map illustrates. So sometimes they actually need to take it away with them and log what is happening, and when they are at a heightened state or a less, a lower state. So people do like to think about it, and therefore, even if I'm introducing it in the moment, it may span over 2 or 3 sessions.
Do you sort of have a regular way of introducing, like you explain the colours and the columns, or do you just let them sort of absorb it and make sense of it themselves?
So I will describe, so when I introduce it to them, clearly it's a very colourful image.
Yeah.
I will describe it at high level first, and I will say our response can be broken up into different types. So we might have thoughts, which could be judgments, or it could be self-dialogue, or so typically it'll be what we are saying to ourselves. It might be feelings, which typically, if we think about it, could be articulated in one word. And it might be sensations that we have in our body or physical actions that we do in our body. So our response can be split into those 3 things. And this is a way that makes those 3 divisions very visual and brings them together.
And how many of your clients do you find are just nonplussed by it? Like, it's like, what the hell is this?
No, they typically like it. I mean, one of the things that many couples struggle to do is to articulate how they feel. So if you ask someone how they feel, they will give you a thought and not a feeling. And so many ways it's being able to channel their energy to identify what actually is the feeling that is part of the self-dialogue and the sensations, and where does that come in their cycle. It's really helpful. It's really helpful because when things are out of awareness, when we are acting in an unconscious way, we have no choice. But the reason that couples come to a therapist is because those patterns that they are adopting are unhelpful in their relationship. So what the rainbow map does is it moves all of those patterns and tendencies from an unconscious place to a conscious place. And once they're in a conscious place, it doesn't mean it's still easy, because we're still triggered, even though we're in a more conscious place. But actually here, we can be more adult and make different decisions, make different choices, even though we know that everything in the body is screaming at us to undertake the typical pattern, the rackety pattern that we would normally pursue.
Do you introduce it just to one client and then work through it with them and then the other, or do you introduce it to both of them and then work with both of them at the same time with it, or does it vary?
Yeah, so, well, typically I will have a couple in the room, and if the triggering of one, or indeed if they are, so that if the triggering of one is impacting really significantly on the other, then we might talk through it together. Sometimes I will see individuals for 1 or 2 sessions on their own, and if they are somebody that is very triggered, then that can be helpful for them. You know, I have some couples where we take a sheet of acetate, the old acetate stuff, and they will overlay it on the rainbow map, and we'll work out their trigger cycles, and then we'll overlay one on top of the other one.
Oh, really?
And we can see how they are responding to which part of the cycle. And once we know that in a more conscious way, once we know how you are triggering me and what that's causing in my self-dialogue, in my feeling, in my, I might be grinding my teeth or whatever it is I'm doing. Once I know that, and I'm attaching a pattern or a tendency that is not helpful in this relationship, then we can talk about pattern breakers. What can I do or say in this one moment that will push the pause button on this bit of the cycle? And so that might be, if I'm feeling that my teeth are grinding and I can feel my heart going, that might be the point at which I say to you, I'm just going for a walk, I'm triggered, I'm off.
Yeah.
You're back. So it's about creating choice for people. And I think this is a great way that we're able to do that visually.
What a brilliant idea, the acetate. That's a fantastic idea. So you're enabling them to compare like the trigger cycles, the times, and I suppose you're helping them become aware of each other's inner world in a way, through that.
Yes. Well, there's greater awareness of the world, but you're doing it from a more detached place. So you're looking back. So whereas when we're in the relationship, we are so triggered, but actually, if we can detach ourselves and look at ourselves back, almost like we, fly on the wall, and look back and say, what do these two people need? And you can do that yourself. You can look back at yourself and evaluate what do these two people need here right now.
So you're helping them step out in a way and
dissociate
and look as an observer.
Yeah.
So that's really, really lovely. And what do you, we're talking generality here because we're not talking about specific clients for confidentiality reasons. And but can you talk any more about what you think they're experiencing, as they first come at the rainbow map, their first experience of it, and then maybe does that change and evolve as the work progresses?
Yeah, I think the first thing that many people experience is awareness. And when you get awareness and you know that there is choice, there is relief.
Okay.
Because actually, if I get relief that this is it's not just about you being a pain in the arse. It's not just about you needing to do more of this or less of that. Actually, I have ownership. I have ownership in this relationship. It's my 50%. And if I have awareness that in my 50%, I can make a difference to this very frustrating situation that we are in, I feel empowered. So awareness, choice, relief, and empowerment, I would say is what clients experience.
And do they use it in different, do you find different clients use it in a different way? Does someone want to take it away?
Lots of people want to take it away, stick it on their fridges. Some people I've known have taken it away, shrunk it down to a bit bigger than a credit card, laminated it and carry it around. Put it out at any point just to remind themselves that actually this bit of the cycle where I'm feeling really shitty is normal.
Yeah.
That's a normal part of my cycle. And I have choice here about how I deal with it, even though everything is screaming at me to stay in that part of the cycle.
So, because you're using the term cycle, I mean, that I brought that trigger cycle column in 2016 and 17, and I myself say it's really useful. It sounds like you're also saying the same thing, that concept that as we trigger up, for example, certainly if you trigger up, there's a certain momentum in that whole experience. And I'm just checking with you, is that what you're talking about when you're using that term cycle, that you're going to be there for half a day or 3 days?
Well, indeed, and if for example, I'm in a low depressive state and it takes me 2 weeks to get out of it because I'm unaware, and that's just my pattern and my tendency of what I do and how I react to stuff. If I'm in that lower state for 2 weeks, knowing that I'm there for 2 weeks and that's a normal part of my cycle means that I have a choice now to break it. So everything is going to be screaming at me to stay low, to stay detached from you, to make you pay. And that's going to take me 2 weeks. Actually, if we can stand back and detach that and we can see the cycle for what it is. And actually, our cycles are intelligent responses to an earlier time. That's how we learned to survive whatever the situations are that we found ourselves in. But if I can see that as an intelligent response that was working for me at that time, and actually it's not so helpful now, the timing and working out the cycle, that can be really helpful.
You talk about developing the observer capacity. And then we're moving on to, you used a different term, but I use the term resources,
Pattern breakers.
Pattern breakers. Yeah. It's a term. Yeah. You talked about pattern breaking. Yeah.
So gosh, there are all sorts of pattern breakers that are useful to people. So taking time out and going for the walk when you're heightened, wrestling with the dog. A pattern breaker can just be if we're in a lower depressive state, it can just be something that we say to ourselves.
So a narrative, like a narrative resource.
It could be a narrative resource about something that I'm saying to myself. So if my partner is triggering me and my typical pattern would be to think to myself, or he or she is a complete arse, then actually that trigger narrative could be replaced with, oh, how interesting that he or she responds in that way. I wonder what's going on for him. So it's not an easy thing to do in the moment, but when you've got a visual resource and you can pinpoint what else is going on in your body in that time, it just gives you more options to put these pattern breakers in place. You know, maybe you notice that you're grinding your teeth at some point. So be intentional about doing something else. Maybe you notice your heart is elevated, but maybe go for a run. You know, do some exercise. There's so many resources or strategies that people use as pattern breakers.
And what about you as a therapist? And you know, we're all reflective and reflexive. What has the rainbow map connected with you?
What it has heightened my own awareness for is how my lower state can manifest into complete withdrawal and independence. And that's not helpful in a relationship, because independence is very easy for me. And I think it's quite a rackety, unhelpful behavior, because it gives me almost an excuse to detach. So I think being more aware of potentially how long I can be in that lower state, which I recreate in my rackety state as being independent. And so what that enables me to do is to, even though everything is about withdrawal because I'm feeling hurt or I'm feeling angry, even though it's about withdrawal, well, I'll just go off and be independent then, and I'll do my own thing. I don't need that. It doesn't bother me, which of course is all a load of nonsense. So being aware of that, what happens for me in the lower state means that, and I'll use the word, so my own narrative is fight. Fight your body, fight your mind, fight all your typical patterns which remove you from intimacy. Fight for it. And fight is not a weak or fluffy word. So you really have to be intentional about that. So you really have to be intentional.
And the rainbow map has played a role in
absolutely,
developing that discrete awareness.
Yeah, because it's just made it more visual about the timing, about what I do.
So it sounds like you've turned the tool onto yourself as well.
Well, I love learning, growth and development. And I think as therapists, we continue to learn, grow and develop ourselves in addition to support our clients. So, and the rainbow map has been great for me, both in terms of creating my own patterns more visually and supporting my clients.
Alison, we're just drawing to an end now. I just wondered, is there anything else you wanted to say that hasn't been covered or you want to share with people who are tuning into this?
Heartfelt thanks, really, because I was using this tool before I met you, but I was using it in words and kind of arrows and things that I was drawing on a flip chart and so on and so forth. So to take everything that I typically use and just create it into a simple A4 sheet of colour. You've done a great job. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Well, for me to use anything, it's got to be really simple. So
and simple means sticky, because if it's simple, it means people remember it.
Thank you so much for sharing time, because I know how busy you are. And I'm really grateful for you sharing so openly today about your experience of working with the rainbow map. It's been really lovely, spending this time with you and hearing you share that. So thank you very much, Alison.
Thank you.
Me again. I just wanted to mention that there are more reflection sessions on the rainbow map available on the Trigger Orientated Therapy website, along with a range of other training modules. These take you from an initial introduction to the tool through to more in-depth sessions in support of your integration of this work into your practice, or perhaps even your day-to-day life. I also run online live monthly question, answer and reflection sessions to suit different time zones. You can find out when the next one is by visiting the front page of the Trigger Orientated Therapy website. And thanks again for spending time with us today.